I bought the blessings from Seven Hills, Lord Balaji, and almost the difficult, scary, just now I had a scary knee, and this is another scary situation dealing with the stiffness. Still, the computer is loading. Exactly simple, we can define. If you see a knee, the ROM of less than 50 degrees, we'll count as a stiff knee. The etiology may be primary or secondary. Primary might be idiopathic, like any regular worse knees, and secondary being a congenital pathologies and acquired pathologies, trauma or previous surgeries may lead to this situation. Look at the etiologically, maybe a degenerative or post-traumatic, and functional classification. There may be a flexion stiffness or flexion contracture where extension is deficit, and further there will be a less than 50 degrees of movement. So when flexion stiffness is there, inability to achieve full passive flexion, most common as flexion contracture, usually produced by quadriceps contracture and heterotrophic ossifications, patella vaha and soft tissue flexion, and post-traumatic osteoarthritis. So when we are talking about the stiff knee, I want to touch the main points, how we approach this knee. Now, because major problem is the quadriceps. We have to address the quadriceps to get further flexion while you are operating by doing the pie casting of the quadriceps itself, or you can do the sniff, or you do the quadriceps plasty or tibial tubercle osteotomy. This is a simple representation how one can do the quadriceps sniff there, and that is the red markings, and you can stretch the quadriceps. And the second one, you can do the quadriceps sniff, where you can do the oblique, proximally oblique sniff. If you want, you can make it as a V8, VY plasty at the later, or straight, you can go for the VY plasty, and finally the tibial tubercle osteotomy. This is the 4 ways you can work on it. And once you do the tibial tubercle osteotomy, the final outcome will be like that. Here is the example. Is a left knee. The range of movement we'll see in the next slide. You can see a lot of osteophytes there in the lateral view, posterior, anterior, and all. Once you see the clinically the case, that is the range of movement, and that is the midline, the markings, patella. Usually, distally will go to the medial to the tibial tubercle. That is the skin incision, followed by the arthrotomy, medial parapatellar arthrotomy. Once you've done the medial parapatellar arthrotomy, when you try to push the patella hardly, you can move it. So here we have to take the decision whether you want to go to the sniff or tibial tubercle osteotomy. Definitely here I choose to do the sniff, quadriceps sniff. So then I can retract the patella laterally and I can avert it. So then I can, you saw a lot of synovitis there. I done the synovitis and started removing the osteophytes around the patella, made it round. And you see the medially, I start anteriorly, dead anterior, and proceed to that, maybe 3 to 5 mm I release. And you can see the osteophyte, femoral osteophyte distal. It's the bony block, prevents the extension of the knee. That causes fixed flexion. And once I get rid of this, is very important. You have to get rid of all the osteophytes medially and anteriorly. You must palpate your condyles are smooth so your jig can be placed properly. Right? That is the jig placement. I went first the cut, and then only I able to subluxate the tibia anteriorly, and then I made the tibial cut of 8 mm, and then once the tibial cut is being done, then I check in the extension. That's the important step. You should not remove your both the pins for the femoral and tibial pins. Then I found this extension is hardly around 4, then 6 mm. So I increased my distal femoral cut to get the extension gap. So the extension gap achieved, and the same taken to the flexion, and after the femoral cut, that is 90 degrees flexion, that is stable, and in the extension, full extension achieved, and that is stable. So this must be done, and then the tibial preparation being done, and that is the space trial. Usually I do that trial without can. I have that habit. If you put the can, you can't assess properly when you are trialing your this thing. So still, that is in the mid flexion and the 90 degrees flexion, the knee is stable, and then I put a stitch. Then I put a stitch on the patella, medially in the around 60 degrees of flexion. I suture with one stitch the patella tendon to the medial this thing after placing the implants in place. Here that is the implantation. I do the cement to the implant itself directly, and there is the one that is full extension, that is extension stability, and I make the medial stitch. Then I check if there is the patella tracking in around 60 to 70 degrees flexion of the knee. That is full extension, and that is the flexion of the knee. So one has to focus on the appropriate, that is the post-op X-ray of the same case. And if you look at the literature, definitely the...
I know Dr. Ramteke, I bothered him a lot. Thank you so much. So in stiff and ankylosed knee, it will be slight overlap of what Dr. Guzaru just said. But before I go on an ankylosed knee, what we always look at is all of those ankyloses that you see might not be an ankylosed knee, it could be a fibrous, it could be a stiff knee with even a lesser arc. Very rare in our circumstances you get a true bony ankylosis. And if it's actually a true bony ankylosis, I normally don't. If it is painless, I don't do it turn down. I try to convince him to live with that. And this paper actually is a very good paper on a stiff knee, but talking very relevantly to what I normally would go believe, that a total knee will provide you satisfactory results, but the surgical plan should anticipate complications. Whenever you try to take these cases, whether they are ankylosed or stiff, you should have your follow-up fallback options available on table, because you never know where you start with and where you end up with. As Dr. has said, about less than 50 degrees arc is stiff, but when you're talking of an ankylosed, it could be ankylosed in extension or flexion. You have to look for reasons. You have to look at whether there were old trauma, inflammatories, severe pains, whatever. And because all of the pre-operative reasons for this need to end up in an ankylosis will affect your recovery in the post-operative period. RSD will have very limited motion, and even in the post-operative this can be lost. And we have to rule out asepsis. The problems that you can encounter, there would be a short or tight ligaments, there would be cortical fibrosis, some fibrosis which could be extra-articular, bony blocks. You have to look for parts including hinges. One particular case, I remember this was in this fashion when he came to me. A CRPF guy was told he cannot service. He was moving like this for a year when he came to us, young guy, probably 36, 37-year-old. That was his CD scan, and that's what we did. He's 34. And that's what we did, we used the hinge on him. The principle that you have to drape your leg free, examine them under anesthesia, always look what are you doing for your old flaps, and of course clear all the extra articular adhesions. Very beautifully demonstrated earlier by sir in the stiff knee, and this is another of the ankylosed knee. You have to look at thick flaps, don't undermine. And gutters are very important. And you would see most of the times when they are fibrous ankyloses or very stiff knees, the moment you release the medial or the lateral gutters, you would actually get some more movement there. Patella, as Dr. just said, the patella is very tight, but at the same time, in an ankylose, you can actually have to osteotomize to get that patella out. You have to release all your adhesions along the femur and the quadriceps. Again, going on the medial and the lateral gutter, on both the sides, you can just have a look and see that where the you will be actually clearing all the surface, all the soft tissues all around, including the suprapatellar region, and you'll have to be looking at removing a lot of soft tissue there. And if you look at it, your finger actually becomes a very important guide and tool here, and you come from the superior margin all the way down from underneath the muscle and then actually clearing out your gutters, and you can probably get some more movement there. Then look for the lateral reticular release, medial capsule all around, you release the superficial MCL, long subperiosteal sleeve is what I normally prefer in such cases. Then if you have to look for your joint line, you might actually, if there's a scar, you remove your scar, or you have to osteotomize to get your joint line, and Z lengthening is a good tool in such cases. So in this video, I would just like to show you all the way that once it was a fibrous ankylosis, just a release and you could actually bend it down all the way and then manage it and then whatever you need to do. But at the same time, this is one of those bony ankylosis, very stiff. So this is an extension. You can actually just pin your tibia block there. You don't need to, you just need to be right somewhere around what you need. And you can just go ahead and osteotomize and take a block wedge of bone like you do in a turn down of a stiff hip, ankylosed hip. You probably are cutting in extension. Don't go all the way till the posterior margin. You can just hammer the posterior margins and take out a small wedge. You just have a look here and you can see all the way the osteotome. You can hit the osteotome, go at the posterior end and you take out a wedge. That is, you're defining the joint line. Another tool that I probably do in such cases is I use my spacer block. Where my patella is sitting, I use my spacer block, make two lines, and in between